Hello and welcome to Super Cool Radio. I'm your host, Matthew Thomas. If you think I look a bit odd, it's because I ate a bowl of Lucky Charms and I turned into a big Irish guy. Joke. I'm Brian from Concerts That Made Us, and Matthew was nice enough to ask me to guest host this episode to give some important updates about Super Cool Radio and the future. So I'm excited to dive in. Matthew, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. I appreciate, when I was thinking of like how I wanted to present this, you were the first person that came to mind that I was like, I want, because instead of just doing a video, I thought that would be kind of like just, boring, that it's just me talking to a camera. So it's nice to have someone who I know is a friend of mine and I trust to be hosting this interview. So it's awesome to see you.
Thank you, Matthew. It's an absolute honor, and I'm delighted I was the first person you thought of. It's an honor and a pleasure. So, how has life been with you lately? You have some health updates.
I did. So this year was definitely a little bit challenging, especially with my health. I had a few things I've had to take care of. That's why if you haven't seen me as active either on social media or on interviews or in-person interviews at concerts. So actually before that, so earlier this year, like February, March, I got I had some jaw issues. I kept having pain on my right side. So I was like, I should get this checked out. I already knew that I kind of had an underbite with my teeth, but I was like, oh, maybe it's not horrible and they could just do something real quick to fix it. That's not the case, unfortunately. So when we were going through that process of determining like what I need, they also determined and found that I had a sinus that was clogged. That was just forever clogged for however long. So I had to get sinus surgery back in May. Okay. So I did not really make that public. I think I did talk about it briefly in a video that I made, but I didn't really talk about it publicly. So I had that in May. I was down for probably about total of 5 weeks, and then it was motoblot. So end of May I had my surgery, and then I had motoblot. I did do a few in-person interviews in between that time when I started feeling good. But yeah, that really kind of knocked me out a little bit. Just I finally felt back in like August that I finally hit my stride again with that. So I finally was like, I felt fully like mentally and physically like recovered from that. So that was cool. So I'm glad I had it done. I'm breathing easier now. I don't have that problem anymore. So they did a great job with anything. Like the whole surgery was like 15 minutes. So like wasn't a very invasive surgery.
It's not too bad. Not too bad. It's great to hear that you're back to 100%.
No, I'm glad. I feel, and I'm really trying to work out. I'm trying to lose some more weight. I've been working out almost every day, and I'm starting to lift again because I wasn't for a while because I had some neck issues that I've been dealing with that have progressively gotten easier. So yeah, I just like a walking like biohazard at some point.
Right.
But
right.
The big thing, so obviously as people see in my recent interviews, I now have braces. So this is the first step of correcting my bite in my jaw. And then soon coming up, by the time this interview comes out, I already have this. I have to get an expander actually drilled into my palate for it stays. Yeah, it sounds horrible, and I'm definitely not looking forward to it. So by the time you see this interview, if you want, just send me some well wishes. I'm probably going to need it. Because so my jaws don't line up is why I'm getting pain and having issues. It's also affecting my breathing still. Like obviously I fixed one part of the breathing, but I still need to fix the other part. So the whole process is going to be about 2 years. Yeah, it's going to be kind of long, but the way I'm looking at it is like, I know it's going to be a short period of time because after that I should be set and I shouldn't have any issues. So I might not be as active going forward because of this, but I was already kind of telling you my plans. So still I'm not going to like fully like, give up in the 2 years or anything like that, but it will be scaled back.
Yeah, well, that's understandable. And, at the end of it, it will be so worth it, You won't know yourself. You'll be, 100%. Be like a new man.
Exactly. So yeah, between that and also I'm starting schooling again coming up in January. I want to finish my 4-year degree because a lot of the jobs I've been looking at unfortunately do require a 4-year degree, and that is something I do not have at this time. So between the schooling and the health, that's kind of why I've been, looking to scale stuff back.
Yeah, I understand. You'd have to really, though, I, for one, know how much time goes into a podcast, especially an interview podcast, and it leaves very little time to do anything else, especially if you had to contend with going to college or working a full-time job. Like, that leaves, like 10% of your day to work on a podcast, if even. Most days, probably, you don't have time.
Well, that, or you just don't feel like it.
That's the other side of it. Yeah.
'Cause I've had that a few times too, where it's like, I know I got to get this done, but like you just don't feel like, and I'd rather be like 100% focused on something than like I just don't care, because then the work and the quality suffers.
Yeah, and that's one thing you don't want, especially when you've set the bar so high. And this past summer, you were doing something pretty cool. Well, I think it's cool anyway, because we don't have such a thing in Ireland, but you spent the summer working with the South Bend Cubs. What was that like, and, what did you learn?
All right, so this the hat I'm representing is the South Bend Cubs. So their American hat, which is just my favorite design by them. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yes, so back in April, I got accepted and started working for the South Bend Cubs, which was, honestly, it was the most coolest and just fantastic job I've ever had. And it was just so cool that because I really liked baseball growing up, and I kind of got out of it for a little bit, but then my one friend said, hey, they're hiring, you should check out and see what they have to offer. So the one position that I did apply for was their promotions team, which was so much fun because I got to work. They do like these game shows in between the innings. So I would find the contestants for it, and I would kind of say, hey, this is what you're going to do. And it was just so much fun just interacting with people, getting that kind of like that one-on-one, just, and then like while we're staging, like, hey, so how are you enjoying the game, or how's it going? And you just get to meet them and, get to know them better that way as well. And my favorite, though, I got to, when I wasn't doing any of the game shows, I got to be on the dugout, and I was like hyping up the crowd, like, come on, let's go. Cubs are down. We need one more run or something like that. And like when I'm on the dugout, just getting the crowd into it, it's an amazing experience. It's that live crowd energy. Yeah. Incredible.
There's no better man for it as well. Your energy and your experience with the podcast. How do you think the podcast or the history of the podcast played into making you so perfect for the job?
Just being energetic and just being able to just articulate stuff to people. I think that was the two biggest things. Just being excited that I wanted to be there, which I'm always am because it's fun, but also knowing how to make that connection with people, or just how to greet them, like, hey, how's it going? Hey, are you enjoying the game? Anything like that. And I think it just helps just being able to have conversation with people that you never met before, which is kind of what we do when we interview people. Because some people, I know that for me personally and probably for you, that we've never met before, but we have to do this interview, and we get to know each other just as we're going.
Yeah, you have to build a rapport and make it seem like you talk to each other every day and have a laugh with them,
Exactly. But yeah, my favorite part from that was just being on the dugouts and getting the crowd into it, especially if the Cubs, like winning or losing, just getting that crowd into it. My favorite, one of my favorite moments was the Cubs were down quite a bit of runs, and but it was a firework night, so people were staying, but you could tell they weren't really happy because the Cubs were losing pretty good. So the home or the away team, I forget who they were playing, but the away team was winning, and they were up batting. So I was like, I want to get the crowd into this. So I get on the dugout and I go, cheer if you want this inning to be over. And everybody cheered. So you got to be clever with that too.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be able to think on the spot. But here's an interesting one now. What is there anything you've learned from that job that improves the podcast?
Getting to know people. Just on the fly, I think just helps, just being quick on your feet, like just as I just described, knowing when to do that. And just like I've had to set up stuff very quickly. Okay, this person's in this section, I have to go grab them, I got to get the game show stuff ready. I think that helped me, like just doing stuff like when I do my music festivals, got to set up and tear down very quickly with the equipment. So I think that just knowing that just that pacing just like, hey, you got to get all this set up real quick. Hey, I got to get this game show set up really quick. I think that really helped me, like with the in-person interviews.
Yeah, it would. And with so much happening in the future, what does this mean for Super Cool Radio?
So as I was kind of been alluding to, obviously speaking earlier with my health and going back to school, obviously I'm going to be scaling stuff back. Like obviously this season I still have some interviews that I'm going to be doing, and do got some in-person ones that I actually have, which I will be talking about soon because they're incredible moments for me. But yeah, going forward, I'll still try to be as active as I can be, knowing the time and health. But there won't be I've been releasing 2 or 3 interviews a week going forward, with this season. I'm going to try to do maybe at the most 1 a week and probably maybe 1 every 2 weeks. I'll still be active as much as I can be, but I probably will be taking a hiatus for December, January, maybe into February, depending on what's happening. And maybe some stuff might come up that maybe surprise me and will surprise the audience. But yeah, I wouldn't expect the weekly content you've been seeing every week to continue at this time.
Yeah. As we said earlier on, you wouldn't be physically able. But I had a feeling, though, I was thinking to myself, there's no way he's going to say it's ending, it's finished completely, because I would bet $1 million that there's no possible way you would be able to give it up. Even if you had to, you'd give it up, and a week later you'd be like, okay, I'm back, guys, let's go.
Yeah, I was honestly heavily debating it for a while. I know we talked probably last month or something like that, and that's kind of when stuff was like, hey, I might be wrapping stuff up. But then I got some great opportunities, end of September, beginning of October. That are kind of reminded me why I do this, and that I think is kind of what I needed at that time. Obviously, I'm not gonna be giving up. Super Cool Radio will still be active, but going forward with everything, it just won't be as I want to have my appearances either in person or digitally. I kind of want to save those. I kind of want it to be a special occasion every time I do an interview.
Yeah, I get you. And jumping back then, because I suppose not the end, but it's a major milestone now that things are changing. But jumping back, what led to your decision to start SCO?
So going back, it was early 2019. So almost 5 years at this point. So it was really 2 things. One, I was listening to the local radio station here in South Bend, and they kept playing just the same stuff you would hear. Metallica, Green Day, Disturbed. Nothing wrong with those bands, but you'd hear the same stuff every day. Similar kind of mainstream bands like that. And I was like, man, what would be something cool if a band played Alice Cooper, Iggy Pop, or Motorhead, bands you won't hear on the radio for whatever reason. And I was like, well, what if I'll just do it myself, because it's totally easy. I don't need any experience. Thinking, when you're 21, I could do anything. Which, to some degree, I think I could. But so that was one part. That was the first part. I was like, I want to do it because I want to at least try it and see what happens. Just going into something with no experience, I want to see how well I do. And then the second part was just with my job. I was like, man, it's really stressful working on cars and stuff. And I was talking to my one friend who was actually I worked with him at that time. He was my mentor when I was going through the schooling for automotive. He's like, dude, you got to find something outside of work that's not related that you can just have fun with. Because if you just focus on work, you're just going to burn yourself out. So I was like, that's pretty good advice. So I was like, I already had that idea of the radio show in mind. And then he told me that, and I kind of put the pieces together, and it's like, yeah, I think that would work. And I think that would at least be fun. Even if I completely fail at it, I at least want to say I gave it a shot. So that was the 2 things that really made me want to start this.
I like it. What do you think the legacy of SCR is then?
My legacy, and I hope it's true, that anyone I interviewed, that they walked away with a positive experience. They're or anyone watching or listening to the interview is like, man, that was a good interview, or that was fun, or I learned so much about one of my favorite musicians. That's kind of what I want the legacy to be.
It's a good one. You can't ask for much better than that. And an interesting one now. What would Matthew from back at the start say to Matthew now if he could see the success of the show?
That's a good one, because I don't think Matthew at 21 would have fathomed what I've done since then in these almost 5 years. Between interviewing Phil Lewis from LA Guns, which crossed my mind when I first started, but I was also like, man, that's never going to happen. And then it happened. Or interviewing Saliva and Drowning Pool at a show. Like stuff like that. I think I would have blew his mind. Because I just don't think back then that I had like the whole like just big picture of, hey, I'm going to be doing this in less than 5 years. Mm-hmm. I just don't think I would have had so much of that insight and forethought to actually like think about it and actually say, oh yeah, that's totally doable. Because I just went into it just going, hey, it'll be fun to at least try some stuff, and just seeing where I've gone with that. It blows my mind. Like I was just thinking about it before this interview. I wanted to get frames for some of my posters that I bought. I'm just going through. It's like, man, that was a fun show. Man, I got to interview that person that show. Like I've retired 2 of my shirts. Because I interviewed Bad Nerves at the Riviera Theater in Chicago, which was just amazing. They opened for Royal Blood, and I was in the photo pit, which is in between the barricade and the stage. I just turn, I look, you just see all these people at this show in Chicago. And it's just like I had that kind of, I don't know, experience, like
real surreal.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. Just you see all these people and you say, I'm pressed for this. I got to interview one of the bands at this show at this theater. It just, I really have no words just because it was just so cool. So that shirt, obviously, it's not really the design; it's the shirt itself because I have my press tags on it. I'm going to be framing it, and I also have a signed set list from Bad Nerves, so I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to make a shadow box for it. So you will see me with the same design, but it is not the same shirt. And then the other one was when I interviewed Saliva and Drowning Pool at Joliet at the end of September. Amazing time. Again, our American listeners and watchers will know. So Route 66 is a historic, highway here in the U.S. It goes through Joliet. So I drove on that for a little bit. I got to stop at a historic ice cream stop, Rich and Creamy. Had a Boston Shake, which sounds it was really good. But the way I describe it to people, they just say, well, it's just 2 forms of ice cream. And it's a shake, which is ice cream, and then a scoop of ice cream on top of the shake. So it's really just 2 forms of ice cream. It was amazing, and I probably got diabetes from it. So I had that, and then I filmed my intro for the video at the Route 66 Park in Joliet, which is so much fun. I got a Route 66 pin from the ice cream stop, so I wore that for the interviews. And it was just so much fun. Of course, I had my press tag for Saliva and Drowning Pool on the shirt as well, and of course interviewed Bobby and Ryan from Drowning Pool and Saliva, respectively. So that shirt... again, you'll probably see the design again, but it's not the same shirt because I'm also framing that one.
I wouldn't blame you. 2 very nice mementos. And I suppose, I'm sure the listeners are dying to know, who are your top 5 guests out of the hundreds you've interviewed?
Before I start, I should say I've loved all the guests I've had on. I've loved because I've had so much fun interviewing everybody. So, but if I had to break it down to top 5, number 1 is the Rumors. They're just so much fun. Like they don't take themselves too seriously. They're goofy. They're fun. And like I just never know what to expect every time I interview them. So I think it's just fun. It makes for a fun interview. I can ask like fun questions. 'Cause I know they'll at least have some type of clever response for them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely number 1. Number 2, Courtney Gaines.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
So obviously Children of the Corn, he had bit parts and I think Back to the Future. He was in the new GTA Online. He did voiceover acting for that. So dude is just, very accomplished with everything. And we just had a fun, again, for someone I've never met before that interview, we had a really great conversation. And I told him before, I was like, hey, we'll go about 30 minutes. He's like, no. Let's go longer. Let's have a conversation. So I'm like, I like that. Because, some people, okay, 30 minutes, cool, and then they dip out. But he genuinely was interested and he was authentic. I just had so much fun just interacting and interviewing him. So I love to have him on again sometime. I love to meet him in person too because the dude's just so cool. So hopefully I get that opportunity at some point too. So that's number 2. And then I would say For number three, I definitely probably just on the historic side, just I interviewed Phil Lewis from LA Guns. Kind of self-explanatory, just because it's Phil Lewis from LA Guns. Something again I never thought would actually happen, and it did.
Yeah.
And that was just so cool. And I'm glad it actually worked out because I had to get a MRI for my face like an hour before the interview. So I was like, I had to drive 30 minutes to do the MRI and then come back. I was like, oh, that's hopefully it was quick, and it was.
Yeah.
I got back like with 20 minutes to spare, so I was like, so everything worked out. I'm glad it worked out. He was cool to interview because did you know? He said, because he said this in my interview with him, that would you like to guess what song, LA Gun song, that causes the most fights in the audience?
Causes the most fights in the audience. Jeez, I don't know.
The Ballad of Jane.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, what did they say? Why does it cause so many fights?
He doesn't know, but he's like, yeah, we'll be singing the song and then there's a fight going on in the second row. He doesn't know why it happens, but he's like, yeah, that's like the song people fight to.
Right. Interesting.
So yeah, I thought that was just a fun fact I like to tell people now about LA Guns.
Yeah.
And that's coming from Phil himself, so it's verified.
Exactly.
All right, so that was number three. Number four, I got to say my friends Kaleido. I've interviewed them I think 5 or 6 times at this point over the 3 or 4 years. They are an amazing live band, and again, just so cool and authentic to interview. And again, another band where I can ask fun questions, and they'll have a good response for, and they actually because some people kind of just sticking to business, but there's some who if I ask a sort of music related question, some of the questions I ask, that they'll at least have fun with it, and they'll at least have a good answer for it. They really like having a conversation. They're really good kind of carrying the conversation too. So that's why I really like them, and plus they're one of my favorite bands. I saw them live for the first time, I think back in 2019. I've been hooked ever since for the past 4 years.
That leaves one more, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Number 5. So I've been kind of debating going back and forth since I've been talking about this, but I gotta say, I think it's gotta be, and this one might surprise people, is Andrew Hagar, Sammy Hagar's son. He was just so cool and just really chill. And just hearing about his experiences, because he didn't start as a musician. He was into mixed martial arts for a while, and he actually trained some actors for mixed martial arts, which was really cool. And we just had a great conversation. And what I really liked was I asked him, does he feel pressure because his last name is Hagar? And he had a great answer for that. He said, at first when I was growing up, I did. But now I don't really care if you like me or hate me just based on my last name. I'm still going to be here. I'm going to do, I'm going to be me. And if people want to judge me just based on my last name, they don't know me.
Yeah. He's made peace with the fact.
Exactly. And he's just so cool and just so down to earth. So those are my top 5.
It's a good list. It's good. Solid. Sorry.
Don't die on me.
I'll try not to. It could happen. So you might have to ask yourself the questions for the last few minutes.
I'm glad I don't know them.
Favorite venues or locations? Then you've done a lot of live shows. There has to be some favorites in there.
Oh yeah, number 1 is Motoblot in Chicago. That's at the Cobra Lounge, 235 North Ashland Avenue. The reason I know that address so well is because I say it when I have my live coverage. That venue is just so cool. The staff is really nice, super accommodating. The guy who runs Motoblot is so cool. They have the classic bikes and cars, and they got all the the vendors with the different food and different jewelry and T-shirts. So they have all that. And the inside, I like the Cobra Lounge inside. Just got a cool vibe to it. The whole aesthetic in there is cool, and that's what I really like about it as well. I would say second. It's still Chicago, but the Riviera Theater. I saw Alter Bridge earlier this year there, and I was like, man, that was cool. That was cool. But I never thought I'd be like, oh yeah, I'll be interviewing a band here at this venue. And again, just so cool. Their backstage was very nice, and just with all of that, it just looked looks so cool. And again, it's like I think it's an old. I don't. Not for sure, but it's like an old, I would say either opera house or something like that, because it had like that kind of aesthetic. I might not be right, but that was the aesthetic they were going for, I think. So that was cool. So I know I just listed 2 venues in Chicago, but I love going to Chicago. Obviously, the Chicago Cubs, which are the major league affiliate of the South Bend Cubs, are based out of there as well. So I would say definitely those 2 venues, just their aesthetic and how, just how they look, and the people there. I say definitely those 2. So, but going back, I'm going to try to not be in Chicago for the next like 2, I say. But I would say definitely one. It's fortunate it's closed. It was the first ever in-person interview I did at a venue. It was at the Muse on Main in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That was the first time ever, and I really liked their aesthetic there. It was a dry venue, so they did not have alcohol, but they had soda. They had a soda bar, they had like some very unique sodas there, so that was cool. But they had like orange carpeting for the stage, and they had like church pews for the seats. It was a vibe. It was a vibe.
Interesting.
Yeah. So unfortunately, obviously with the economy and everything going on, plus their business as well, that unfortunately they had to close down. So, but that's historic just because it was the first venue I ever went to for an interview.
You'll always remember that one. So I have to ask: is there a target or a dream venue that you'd love to do an interview?
Yeah, I would say 3 come to mind. I'll go with an obvious one that, like, if you talk to like almost any musician, like the Whiskey A Go Go.
I know it was coming.
Yeah, I mean, just to say that I did an interview at the Whiskey A Go, and especially the intro for that, they're like, "Hey, I am live here at the Whiskey A Go Go." I mean, come on. That, like, if you're in the music industry in any capacity, and like the whiskey is not like on your list of venues to go to, then are you really in the music industry?
Exactly.
So that's number 1 for sure. The second one I've been to, but not as press. I just went for a show. It's the Agora Theater in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
No.
So it was it was a really cool looking venue. I think it's a theater, so I think it was a theater at some point. Now it's a venue. It looked really cool on the inside. They've obviously redid a lot of it, so it looks nice. But also, it was a historic like stop for bands like going through that area. Like a Kiss played there, and like those legendary bands like of that caliber played in like the mid to late 70s. It was really just like a great location on your tour for those bands. So a lot of history there as well.
Nice. I'll have to look it up and see what it's like.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, and it was cool. I saw Bayside there, and it was a very fun show. So I love to do press there. Hope maybe at some point. Hey, you never know. It's only about 4 hours for me, so definitely doable.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like it's 12 or 15 hours, you know?
Oh, well, yeah, like the whiskey. I don't know how long that is for me, but definitely a flight. And then the last one, I don't know if they really host concerts there or not, but I went to the Field House in Indianapolis, Indiana. That's where the Pacers play, if anyone knows NBA. I just love to say I'm at the Field House. Pacers are an awesome team. I do like them. The Chicago Bulls are my favorite, but I have to show some love to the Pacers as well. And I went to a WWE wrestling show there recently. And they tore up, like, they have the mats around the ring. So it was a no disqualification match. So the one dude like tore the mats up. He was going to slam the other guy. And I was like, that's the hardest surface. That's the Field House. So yeah, it would just be fun to say I'm at the Field House.
Yeah, exactly. And the final question. I've heard rumors that there's 2 articles of clothing that you will no longer wear to concerts. Would you like to share?
I wonder where you heard that from.
I know, rumors, whispers throughout the industry.
Yeah, I wonder who's been talking to you. That's interesting. Yeah, so 2 of them, ironically, both of these articles of clothing were at Rob Zombie concerts. So the first one was in 2016. I saw Rob Zombie in Korn, which was a fantastic show, phenomenal. Rob Zombie, he was like walking through the crowd, and he would like literally walk by our aisle, so that was cool. So that was a fun show. But I wore a Punisher shirt, and like as soon as I get out of the car, me and my brother walk in the venue, I see there's a dude with the same Punisher shirt. And then I'm like, oh man, same. And I don't like when people wear the same shirt as me because then you just feel weird. And then I walk in the venue, and there's another guy with the same shirt as me. So I'm like, all right, that's two guys. Yeah. So I think there wound up being 3 guys with the same shirt as me. Like almost the exact same.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I can't wear this shirt anymore because like if I show up again, then like there's like 3 or 4 dudes who still have the same shirt as me. So I've retired that. I'll still wear it, but just not to concerts.
Okay.
And then the one actually just happened in August. I saw Rob Zombie again for the second time with Alice Cooper Ministry and Filter.
Oh man.
Which was fantastic. And also, by the way, on the day where we're recording this, I'm actually seeing Alice Cooper again coming up soon. It'll be today, actually.
Nice.
Anyway, so Rob Zombie was selling green and black hats that said Rob Zombie on it, and I was wearing. So it was like it was like the trucker hat. So it's kind of like netting on the back of it then there's like the front is a logo. So it was green and black. I'm wearing a genuine Dickies hat that is the exact same pattern and color, black and green.
Right.
So I'm like, what are the odds that I'm wearing a green and black hat at a place where they're selling green and black hats, except I just have I have a different logo, but if you turn it around, it looks like I have the same hat.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't wear that again because everyone's going to mistake me that I'm wearing a Rob Zombie hat, and then I'm going to get mad when it's not a Rob Zombie hat. So I cannot wear those two to any concert.
Not even anyone else other than Rob Zombie.
No, when you see a sea of like 30 hats that look like yours, except they're just slightly different, you're like, I'll save this for something else.
Good ones. There's something weird with you and Rob Zombie though. Twice,
yeah.
Like, what are the chances?
Yeah, we'll see. I'm gonna see if I see him again. I'll have to see like what I'm gonna wear, and then someone's probably gonna copy me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matthew, listen, it's been a pleasure chatting to you, and again, thank you so much for thinking of me to specially guest host your podcast.
It was awesome to see you and chat with you, and I really appreciate that you wanted to do this, and I'm glad you've indulged my insanity that is Super Cool Radio, which you, by the way, you could say you're a host of now. You can put that on your resume.
Very, very good one. Yeah. Thank you.
Do you want me to close out this interview? Because I do have my catchphrase. Or do you want to?
You know what? No, I think I have to. I think Matthew is the only one that can do the catchphrase justice. So take it away.
I will do. Well, Brian, it's been awesome chatting with you. I really appreciate it, and I definitely look forward to hopefully catching up with you again in the near future, I would say. For Brian of Concerts That Made Us podcast, I'm your host always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching or listening to Super Cool Radio, and remember, stay frosty.